Yeah, let's talk about the bigger picture. Let's talk about how we be ballin', playing with the Wizards. Let's talk about the Nets and how they always got good pictures. Let's talk about the cats who rescue, turn them boys to winners. Injuries and updates, oh yeah. To the opponent, we stand toe to toe, yeah. To the top, this podcast gonna go, yeah. I think it's something you should know, yeah.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District. This is our flagship program. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner, and it's just the two of us. That's right. Trev has some business to take care of, as he is a businessman. We got Missy Trev in the background for our audio listeners because, yes, while we do stream this live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Wednesday at 7:30 live for your pleasure, we do push this out to your favorite audio platforms as well. In fact, I made a promise, and I will keep to it. During the grab bag session in the cool down, we will read off whichever Apple, reviews you have left us. I will read them off. Hopefully they're nice and this doesn't become an episode of mean tweets. But we'll see that. We'll see that in the cool down. For the game, we're going to be talking training camp headlined by the fan lottery. Mm-hmm. And Stoner and I, spoiler alert, not going to be at training camp. Did not get the invite. Neither did Trev. But
good tease. There may be some developments.
Okay, there might be some developments. Looking forward to that in the game. Here in the warm-up, we will be discussing Juan Soto, the home run derby champion.
All-American hero.
Will he be the second national player to win the derby and then walk away from the team? We'll talk about that here.
In the same year, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in the warm-up. Of course, make sure that you're in the comment section. You like this video, you subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the support. You might see, if you're watching the channel, not one of our audio listeners, something fancy on top of Stoner's head. We do have some merchandise that we do push out. We don't like to, pedal our gears as it were. You will start to see it a little bit more prominent here on our YouTube page. We do have that available to you. If you head out to our Twitter account, you can check our link tree and you can go out to the gear that way. I think we might actually have it in the description of these videos as well. If not, we might have to do that. Listen to me here. We are not. We don't sell this gear at like a premium. In fact, as far as the site that we use, the Spring Tee, we actually reduce it to the point where it doesn't actually get us money. That's not what we're not selling the gear to get money. We just think that, if you want to support the channel and you wear the shirt, somebody asks you when you're, hey, what's Ref the District? You can tell them about us and that gets us another viewer. And that's what's cool. In fact, I'm actually going to get a pair of slides that we put out on there.
Those are cool.
It literally, we get a penny if you buy the slides. That's how marked down we put it, is as much as possible. So
yeah, man.
But you just support the channel by supporting us, and make sure you subscribe. And if you wear the gear, like I said, it's just kind of a bonus, and you'll see us out and about. I'm wearing a fancy polo. These aren't on the site, but we do have several good shirts to include the classic behind me, the Just a Fan shirt. You'll see that behind Stoner as well.
Yep.
Shout out to Daryl and Doug in the chat already. Make sure if you're watching us live that you hop in the chat and let us know what you think about Juan Soto winning the Derby, but having to fly himself out to the All-Star break. Stoner, you believe this story from Scott Boras, but why?
Well, because
why did this happen?
Well, some organizations are not as first class as others, and the organization, the Washington team, they're up for sale. These are owners now who are trying to pinch every possible penny that they can at this point before they sell the team. So that's why I don't think they did it. Super low class. I mean, Same situation happened in Oakland with the A's. They also had a player who was going to fly coach to the All-Star game, but Houston, who I believe played them the last game before the All-Star game, they were taking their players privately, and so they said, hey, come hop on board with us. Now, why didn't I think it was Atlanta? Is that the last team Washington played? Why didn't Atlanta do that for Juan Soto? I'm just, I'm trying to switch the blame, right? This is all Atlanta's fault. This is not the Washington's fault. But it is kind of weird that they would do that. Don't you think it's just? I believe it 100%. Yeah, those are the kinds of things you just don't.
Did he didn't have to fly himself out last year though?
I don't know. Did he?
I don't remember it being a story last year. Yeah,
well, yeah.
I think this year it's a story because the contract he did turn down $440 million over 15 years, which we talked about. That's not a great deal for him, right? That's not something that is, I think his yearly average is nearly like 30th.
It's
if
like
you were to take that deal, 20th, so it's way down there. So obviously a monster contract, but when you look at it, the deal actually isn't that sexy.
Well, you're right that it's not, the AAV is not great. It's still, the dollar amount would be the largest contract in the history of professional sports, right? So you got to give Washington a little bit of credit, don't you? That they at least offered it wasn't and
no deferred money.
No deferred money.
That was actually something that was pretty surprising.
Yeah, it wasn't an insulting offer, right? Maybe the AAV was not great, but it was not an insulting offer. So that's good.
Shout out to Gus Bus and Command This Podcast. Shout out to Steve out there watching the channel right now. He says sounds borderline petty, but there could be more to it. Not a big deal. Slow news day in the MLB outside of Soto and Judge. That's fair. It could be that. Gus Bus with I think Rizzo is pretty first class.
I agree.
He's more important than Soto.
He's more important? Maybe. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he's the guy putting the team together. But so he's kind of important. But I mean, Soto is the face of the franchise right now. I have a lot of thoughts about this whole contract thing. It's still, I don't understand one big thing about it. And maybe you have a thought on this, Nathan, but it's been swirling around in my head for a couple of days, right? I don't understand why it's so urgent that this get done now. It's either sign him or they're going to trade him. He's 2.5 years away from free agency. Why the urgency? Has this ever happened in the history of team sports that a guy's 2.5 years away and we're making a big deal that if you can't sign him now, that you're going to trade him? I don't understand why that is an issue today. Why this year?
So I think part of this is that they have to, the reason why they feel like it has to be done now is because, one, they want to lock him up long-term now. Gus Bus talks about arbitration, and that's one thing, right? Like, you can probably get him cheaper if you lock him up now than if you go to arbitration. It's probably going to cost you a little bit more there. So that's one aspect to it. The other aspect, and where the trade comes in, you're talking a generational player here. One of the best players in baseball that's available. And if teams can guarantee that they'll get 2 years of that, 2.5 years of that talent, they're going to take it. If Soto doesn't sign with them, but if all they get is that 2.5 years, they're still going to give you starting caliber players, right? They're going to give you people who are ready to play baseball now.
Right.
If you wait another year, or if you wait till it's literally you can't sign, you're not going to sign him and he's going to walk away in free agency, teams for a 6-month rental aren't going to give you the haul that they'll give you right now.
I get that, but it's not guaranteed that he's going to walk. Everybody has a price. You got to find out what that price is. So it's not guaranteed that he's going to walk. But why is it that it's so urgent that you necessarily do it now? Who's the kid in Seattle who Soto beat for the home run derby? Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Why aren't they trying
He's
to
a
either
rookie.
sign him or Juan Soto's been around for 3 years. Okay, he's 23 years old. He's been around. This is his 4th year. But it's the same concept. You've got him under contract for the next 2 years after this year. There's no reason to go out there and say we have to trade him just because you're going to get a good haul for him. And you know how I feel about trading guys, proven guys, for unproven guys. I've said it over and over. I said it about the Bradley Beal situation. So let's say you get a good haul for him, right? And you get a couple of really good prospects, and those prospects turn into really good players. Oh, they turn into a guy who, I don't know, wins a batting title, 2 silver sluggers, a home run derby, right? It's considered the best, one of the top 5 players in baseball. You already have that on your team. Why do you have to trade for a guy who might do that in 3 years?
This is where I will agree with you on this particular player, right? Juan Soto, it doesn't matter what you get back in return, you're not getting Juan Soto.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You can hope all you want, but again, he is a generational talent. You're not going to get that back. Bradley Beal, I know that it's not the topic here. We're talking Juan Soto. You could get a Bradley Beal. You can get a
take the Bradley Beal out of it. But
yes,
the concept
this particular one, this particular one, I agree with you. Give a shout out here to those. Doug is watching DC United Bayern Munich right now. Go DC United, even though Bayern Munich's a fun team to watch. Yam in Japan is on there. Hello, Daryl Jackson. He also is talking about the generational player. You just can't let them get away. Gus Bus loves the fact that they're being decisive on this. And Yam brings up this good point here. How many players have the Nats let walk over just the past 6 to 8 years? Granted, yes, some were just too rich, wanted out, etc. But still, they just can't seem to keep talent. We tweeted about this actually not too long ago. They just cannot keep talent outside of Strasburg. And whether or not Strasburg is a legitimate star can be debatable because he doesn't really play all that much. Now, if you ask me, being a Nationals fan, I'll tell you that he happens to be one of the greatest postseason pitchers of all time. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean much when you can't help the team get to the postseason. Shout out to our man Steve with the Command This podcast with the donation. Again, we do have that down there. The super chat is available. We appreciate those who
appreciate that, Steve.
Could give that donation. But Steve says the urgency is linked to his trade value, almost like Kirk. If you know he's gone, trade him now. A 2-year rental is perfect for a ready team. Pay up.
Again,
make sure, by the way, if real quick, before you tackle that, head out to the Command This podcast YouTube page.
Fantastic.
Make sure you subscribe to them. Great guys, some great content that they provide. Appreciate them and then Steve for that donation there.
Yeah, but again, Julio Rodriguez, his trade value right now is at an all-time high. He just placed second. He just popped onto the scene as this amazing young rookie who's going to be a great player. His trade value is at an all-time high right now. Why don't they talk about trading him or signing him? That's not how it works. And another point to the whole go get a bunch of young guys, right? So you get a trade value and you get a bunch of young guys back. You're not going to sign them once they become a great player again because you've proven you're not going to sign him. So you're just going to continue this cycle. And it's really starting to get that point where we're becoming the Oakland A's of the East. We're becoming a team who gets these good draft picks. We develop them. They get to the big leagues, and then we trade them. We get rid of them because we don't want to pay them, or the Pirates, or the Royals. Or that's not who Washington should be.
No, we shouldn't be a glorified farm team.
No, that's ridiculous. So we got to stop with this. His trade value is at an all-time high. So what? His need to sign him is at an all-time high as well. That's what we should be focused on.
Gus Bus calling you out for the Rodriguez part. Rodriguez hasn't turned down a deal like Soto just did.
Right.
Would you offer the largest money ever to a rookie? Absolutely not. And Rodriguez obviously hasn't done enough to warrant that. You could argue Juan Soto has been in line for a deal for the last 2 seasons, where he's just been just outstanding play and deserving of more money. But obviously you don't pay somebody, more money when you can keep them for as cheap as they have over the last few seasons. And we do still have Juan Soto for 2.5 seasons. I don't want him to leave DC.
No, of course not.
I want them to do whatever. Like, watching the home run derby, like, just his smile brings a smile to your face, right? He actually does enjoy the game, and he made the pitcher, cry. Like, he's such a fun player for baseball, and you want that to stay on the Nationals. My question to you is there's another generational talent that's on the other coast. They haven't been able to put together a winning season. We've at least been blessed that we had Juan Soto and a World Series championship. Yeah. The Angels have Trout, who a lot of people consider the best baseball player.
Yep, absolutely.
Would you sign Juan Soto to $500 million?
Yeah.
If it, best AAV and all that good stuff, it's a contract he just can't refuse. Chartered jet to every All-Star game he makes, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. If it means Washington doesn't make the World Series again for the next decade.
No, of course not. Not if the alternate is true, that if you get rid of Soto, then you will make the World Series within the next decade. Of course not. You would never put one player above the team. But having Mike Trout on the Angels gives them a chance. Now they've done absolutely nothing with those chances. He's never even won a playoff game in his entire career, 10 years of being the best player in baseball. I understand. It doesn't always work out that way. But conversely, there are plenty of players that do win World Series. Mookie Betts is the second highest paid player in baseball right now. He won a World Series last year, right? So, and who's the next guy I'm thinking of for whatever reason? He just blanked out of them. Acuna Jr. He's up there in paid, and they won a World Series last year. Now he was hurt, but still he was a part of that team, and he makes a ton of money. And Tatis Jr. makes a ton of money. Now, they didn't go to the World Series, but they're right there in the playoffs each year. So for every Mike Trout, I can come back with 3 other guys who are making a crap ton of money and make it. So it doesn't mean just because you sign him, you're not going to make it because you can't sign other players. That's not how it works. You have to be able to develop talent, keep that talent, and pay that talent. That's all there is to it. And Washington's not doing that right now. And it's driving me insane. When they let Harper go, right, they were in the middle of a pennant race. So they did kind of try to trade him, but they wanted to keep him for a pennant race. They made the playoffs. They didn't win. Then they let him go, and you're just kind of like, well, okay, they've got other guys that they're going to sign. Then Rendon came up, and they were thinking about trading Rendon, right?
He clearly didn't want to be here. Yeah.
Remember they were terrible at the beginning of that particular year. What's the number?
2019. They were god awful.
Yeah, they were 19.
It comes up every May. Right. It's like, we're going to turn around. We can turn around.
So they said, well, we might be trading Rendon because I don't think we're going to be able to re-sign him. But then they got hot and they made a World Series run and won the World Series. So then you kind of understood letting him go because you had to decide you couldn't keep both, and they went with Strasburg, right? And then the last one last year was Max and Trey. And they were a terrible team. And they tried to turn it around. And they couldn't do it. So you understood trading them because why? Because you got to have enough money to pay Soto. Now it's time to pay Soto.
Pay him.
Please pay Soto.
Pay him. Pay him whatever it takes. Crap. For this team is currently up for sale. Is this a more attractive team with Juan Soto on a $500 million contract?
Yeah.
Or a team that pulls back a haul of young players for Juan Soto? Which is more attractive, do you think?
I think that's the big sticking point with this whole thing and why it's become such an issue here 2.5 years before he hits free agency. Has everything to do with the sale. Although I don't know what it benefits either side to go in either direction. I don't know because some people say you want to have the best player in baseball, the face of the franchise, locked up for the 10 years when you take over the team, when you buy the team. And then the other side is, well, I don't want to take over a team that's got $500 million in debt right away, right off the bat, in one guy, 20% of your payroll.
Probably going to make that money back.
Yeah, I know, but which way do you want to go? Which way do the learners want to go?
I personally, I don't have the money to put down, but me personally, if I'm buying a baseball franchise, I'm buying the one with the star that I know that's going to make me that money.
Aren't you paying more for that? Aren't you paying?
You're probably
instead of $3 billion, you're paying 3.5 because you got to pay for that star. That's possible. That's possible, but isn't it worth it? To me, it's worth it. Yeah.
We're gonna give a shout out to our people in the chat. We got the Dubs family. We got Hawk TV, and Shady Katie joined us briefly. Says you are looking just handsome there, Stoner, in that cap of yours.
Katie, thank you very much.
There is a good conversation happening here in the chat as well that I kind of want to bring in here.
Yeah.
Yam says that Juan Soto is a talent that brings people to watch a mediocre at best team, just like Trout and Ohtani for the Angels. Gus Bus, however, is on the other side saying that the Nats have enough going for them to attract fans. Nice stadium, great site, big tourism in the summer for DC. They don't have to depend on having a highly paid star to get fans to come. Do the Nationals need Juan Soto to sell tickets?
Yes. Go to the state. Who's against it? That they don't need it? Was that
Gus Bus thinks that they have enough going for them that they don't.
Gus, when's the last time you've been to a game this year? It's an empty stadium. Sorry, buddy. It just is, except for those times where they're giving out bobbleheads or there's fireworks or there's pups in the park, whatever sort of promotion. That stadium is empty. They're getting less than 10,000 fans in there. I've been there. It's empty. Okay, sorry. They do need faces. They do need to win. First, you need the faces. Then you need to win. Then the fans will come. That's how it is in Washington for all teams, right? We're not one of these great sports towns. We're a front runner town, right? If you're doing well, we'll show up. If you're not doing well, we ain't showing up. We're going to do the old, I used to like the Seahawks when I was a kid, so I'm going to, be following them while the Commanders are terrible. Like that. That's what people are going to end up doing when the team sucks. So, they need him.
We might be in a period if they end up trading Soto. Gus, it's not fair to say last year was an empty stadium with Soto. Last year was a pretty special year as far as what was going on, and so the stadium was bound to be empty. So last couple years haven't been that. But
I got one question.
This year could be filled if they start winning, and I think they have a better chance of winning with Juan Soto in the lineup than they do without him.
Of course.
Last thought before we end up going to the game, talking training camp in that lottery.
All right. So my question for you is, some things have been thrown around that is part of this trade package. If it's going to happen, is it feasible that they throw in Patrick Corbin into that trade package so you can get rid of that contract too? Right? Are you going to get a bunch of crap back?
Sure, but I don't know. I don't think it adds anything. I think that I don't think you get crap back because of it, right? I think what happens is, so a team wants Juan Soto. They're willing to give us 5 good to great players for it. And the Nationals are like, nah, we need you to throw in more. And they're like, well, this is all we can afford to give you. Do you just want to throw Corbin in and we'll take Corbin off your hands? That's how that's going to happen, right? Yeah. Or if they come out and they're like, well, we got 6 players, and Nationals are like, well, can you take Corbin with this? They're like, well, then we're only going to give you 5 players. Yeah, right, 4 players. Same with Strasburg. Yeah, same with Strasburg would be another one where people are going to be, if they take on that contract, they're going to not give us as much. I don't think that they're going to give us, pennies on the dollar, because you're still getting Juan Soto. You're going to have to give up less if you're willing to take on those bad bad deals. So enough with the baseball. Let's get to the training camp. If you're here for Rio, I don't know if you saw his message, but he is actually not going to do his own live today. Something came up, so we won't have him for the game, but we will have you in the chat. Make sure you stick around. We're talking training camp coming up to include that god-awful lottery. More on that for our Ref the District coming up. The game is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running. Welcome back to the game. Of course, we are sponsored by Pacers Running and Skybar, which is why we don't have Trev today. He is a businessman, and he had a nice deal happen, nice meeting, so he wasn't able to come today for this talk. Mentioned before the break, Rio also not able to come. We do miss Trev. We really miss him a lot, but we want you to stay with us for this conversation. The training camp for the Washington Commanders, their first ever training camp, is happening next week. Stoner.
Yeah.
They did a lottery.
Yeah. Well, let's get – yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the lottery or you want to start with something else?
Well, no, I was just going to say let's kind of get the basics of what's going on, because – from a lot of people I'm talking to, they really don't know that this whole thing is going on. I've heard from people who are going to go down to Richmond next week because they didn't know any better. So training camp is no longer in Richmond. They decided not to do it. Not this year. Who knows what the future brings. So it's at the training facility in Ashburn, Virginia, a small facility. You were there for OTAs. You saw firsthand that it does not fit a lot of people. So they had to do a lottery system and ask fans to register for this lottery, and then they were going to choose who can attend the camp each day, and only in the morning sessions, not even in the afternoon sessions, for 2 hours during the day, and that's it. So the lottery happened, I guess, and a lot of people were informed that they were not selected. My question is, did you get informed either way on your lottery submission? Yeah, I didn't either. I don't know either way. But from what I understand, that's already been all completed.
Yes.
The lottery is completed and people have been informed.
You should know one way or the other whether or not you're attending or whether or not you're not attending. So I'm assuming then something happened with our deals, which is why we're pouting on the faces. By the way, do you know the last time that it was held there in Ashburn?
I do not. Never.
2012.
Ooh, I like this. 2012 was a great year.
It was. It was a great year. It was also a surprising year for them not to hold it down in Richmond, as they've been with Richmond on and off. Now, granted, Richmond does kind of have to front the bill for this, and then there's a whole deal about it. Why it goes to Richmond, why it doesn't go to Richmond. Yeah. But 2012 was the last year that I could find, and please correct me if I'm wrong if you can find something else, but I dug into this today knowing this was going to be the topic. And I thought that was really interesting. A little bit of similarities to me, and the fact that there should be some excitement that you want to have the fan base for, right? In 2012, obviously, that was RG3. They traded up all those picks, got an electric rookie quarterback that you just knew was going to be the guy to start it, right? Yeah. This year, the excitement is around the whole rebrand and the Washington Commanders, and you want to bring people in. This is the 90th year. There seems to be what should be a lot of excitement around the team, and then they have it at a small facility. Now, what I can't find is from 2012 is, and it doesn't seem like it was from the pictures, any sort of lottery or anything that happened there. Well, it looked like you could just sign up, get your free ticket, and go. There might have still been a limited capacity, but it had no lottery
sort of
system
lottery.
that I can see.
Yeah.
Based off of that. Now, I think that there are some circumstances this year that lottery is a little bit more the route that they went. And, I don't think we need to fire any interns just yet, Katie. But
They might.
I know a lot of fans aren't happy about this. Where do you stand on the lottery as far as, is this just not the way they should have done it? Do you feel like there should have been a different way? First come, first serve, or what?
First come, first serve is not going to work either, right? So just because the demand is there. I don't know how else you could do it other than a lottery. That part I don't understand. But before you get to that lottery, you should have probably thought about all of those things that you just talked about this is a rebrand. This is kind of a whole new level of excitement. You can't hold it at the smallest possible venue, which is, in Ashburn. So you should have taken that in consideration whenever you were figuring out how you were going to do it. And that's where they botched it. So once they decided that, then you have to figure out how you're going to get the tickets to everybody. And in that case, the lottery happens to be the only possible way. I don't know how else you would do it, but still, it obviously didn't work very well, because here we are, two people who applied or registered for the lottery, and we didn't get in, or we don't know if we got in. They haven't even told everybody, although it's, like I said, it's my understanding that the lottery is complete, that they have informed the people who were selected. So I've got a pretty good source on the inside that is clued in or is informed of how this whole lottery went down and everything that's going on. And I'll just say this, because I'm obviously not going to give my source. The executives are saying there was issues with emails, right? So they had problems with getting emails to the people that they needed to get emails to. I think that's a easy excuse, but that's what they're going with right now. Now, however, just for your boys, the two boys that you're looking at on the screen, we may have an in to where we could possibly go to camp. Just to let you know.
Trev did get the negative. He got
a negative, right?
And EP got a negative.
Right? But you and I haven't gotten anything.
Nothing. Nothing.
And if I'm going to be completely transparent, I applied for the lottery with two different email addresses, right? And I haven't gotten a response to either one. Maybe that's where, maybe they checked my IP address and said, "Ooh, this guy did it twice from his home. He gets knocked out of the."
That's what happened for you. Yeah. Doug is asking how many days are they open. So training camp is going to run the 27th through August 18th. August 6th is going to be, it looks like, the fan day. This is a free event open to the public. Yeah. This is where you kind of got into your lottery situation here.
But that's the one at FedEx.
That's
totally different.
Yeah, that is the FedEx one.
That is not an intimate sort of training camp feel to it. That's just kind of a show and tell sort of deal where they're going to have a practice, and but you're not going to be up close and personal. You're going to be in the stands, separated. They're going to do their thing way down there on the field, as opposed to in training camp when you're 15 feet away from them practicing. That's a totally different environment. And just like you said, they're blowing this opportunity to bring in new fans with this rebrand, that they can be there at camp, and hopefully folks will bring their kids in, and their kids can start early with this whole new Commanders branding. And there's another day that we might have a shot at this. And I haven't actually seen anything on this, but that's actually their Military Appreciation Day. Is going to be the 30th of July. That's Saturday, upcoming next Saturday. Through Washington Salute. They invite military members. In case you didn't know, I'm soon to be retired. I got 1 year left. I applied for that this past weekend. Awesome.
You're retired. Yep. So, but I haven't seen or heard anything on that either. So that's an interesting one. I'm sure we can dig around and find some more out on that particular part. But it just seems like as far as me, I asked you how you are in the lottery. I agree. I don't know that there's another way to potentially handle this, right? I feel
At a
like
small venue, right?
I don't know that it's small enough that you just can't open it up, right? There were enough areas where you can have some tents. I don't think it's not as good as Richmond.
What about
Richmond is a
bleachers?
whole nother experience. I do think that there's just something you could do to accommodate more people. I'm not against the lottery, though. It didn't work out for a lot of fans, and I can understand the frustration that they would have for that.
Yeah.
But if you are trying to limit the access to it, to me, honestly, the field around the practice field, the areas where the fans would be, I don't see that as a large limitation to the event as I see parking is the issue, right?
Sure.
It didn't seem like there were some great areas. I feel like they would have, and those are solvable too. You can have a separate site and bus people out, like have a shuttle that goes to and from. I feel like there's some areas where they can kind of wiggle. It's just how much effort you want to put into it. They decided the lottery with a smaller, intimate crowd. And to be fair, I know people want to be upset with the team. I get it. Like the team does a lot to be upset with. But let's actually see training camp. And I want to hear from people who go to training camp. And if you're going to be one of them, please let us know. We'll actually have you on the channel because we would love to hear what the actual experience is, right? So if we're talking about having it because it's this special, like you're the Commanders, the 90th year, all this other stuff. If they make that special for the people who did get to go there, then I feel like that should still be a win for them.
But only a win for a small minority of people rather than a large group of people.
Well, the rest of us will have to make up for it on that August 6th. Yam with parking. We're talking about parking. Yes, it's a real issue, I know, but even more evidence why their new location needs to have metro access if it is indeed going to be a complete setup. Absolutely agree with that. It needs to, because you got to think that new setup that they're looking for, training camp will start to be held there. They will have a practice facility there.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully, if they do it right, you never know.
And that's what they're looking for, the deal that they're looking for. And that's why it's important for that location to have access for people to get to where you don't have to worry about an entire parking lot full of people or multiple parking lots like they did down in Richmond last year. I want it to be a fun event. I want it to be a fun event for those who get to go there. Hopefully this event on August 6th that's open to everybody will be just as fun.
But I said, it's not going to be as intimate.
It's not, but let's be fair. Training camp isn't really that intimate either.
Oh, I think so. Like if you remember when we went last year, if not for the COVID rules that were in place, I mean, we were from the players. If we wanted to go to that side, we could have been on the sidelines basically, right? Or after practice when they were walking around, they were 10 feet from us because they had to be. That was the rules. But Jason Wright was right on the ropes, signing autographs, taking pictures with fans and things like that. So they're not going to do that at FedEx because there's going to probably be 10,000 people and they're going to be in the stands. They're going to be in the bleachers. They're not going to be down on the field where the players are. Now, maybe the players will eventually go there, but not to the same level of training camp. I think it's just a little bit different. And by the way, we're kind of burying the lead here. Training camp starts next week.
It does.
And that's a big deal. And I'm super excited about that.
It is. There's going to be several storylines for us to keep track of. And we're going to go over those now. But I do want to, I'm going to hit a couple of these comments that I'm going to bring up 2012's topics that they were bringing up in the article that I pulled up. Katie says, considering the rebrand and the need as much good publicity as possible, this year was not the year for exclusive. I'm not going to say that.
Exclusivity.
It's not the year to be exclusive.
He said exclusive. I'm not saying that.
My tongue got in the way, and it just wasn't going to be there. Will all the players be at training camp? As far as we know, if you're healthy, you're there. There's going to be no holdouts this year for training camp. In 2012, some of the things that were headlining,
All right.
Trent Williams had himself a big camp in 2012.
What does that mean?
He was
awesome.
Trent Williams. This is from ESPN. Trent Williams is having a great camp. Teammates talk about how much more professional he is, studying tapes and working. I'm gonna bring it over here so you don't see the side of my head. His conditioning is also good. Williams has the talent to be one of the best left tackles in the NFC. Spoiler alert, he is one of the best left tackles in the NFC, just no longer plays for the Burgundy and Gold.
Yeah.
RG3 can make line look good by scrambling away from sacks, but the line needs to come together with consistent run blocking for the offense to be successful. You also had Josh Laribus.
Oh, sure. I remember he was like
he was a rookie that year. Yeah, he was a rookie that year.
Yeah, he was.
At some point during Monday's practice, the Redskins rookie realized that he belongs. That's from CSN Washington. You had D'Angelo Hall at nickel.
Oh, sure.
D'Angelo Hall was guilty of holding twice during one-on-one drills. But during the full team scrimmage, he ran step for step with his assignments and broke up the first two passes. That's from the Washington Post. Chris Baker, Swaggy. In the house.
Oh, no, he's just swaggy. Sorry.
John Keim says Chris Baker is in the backfield quite a bit at this camp, beat second teamers, but still more active than Neiled this far. Yet Aldrick Robinson as a wide receiver.
Hmm?
During
did some work, right?
Yeah. Second-year player in 2012. Brandon Banks, another throwback name. On offense, receiver Brandon Banks has embraced head coach Mike Shanahan's challenge to be a threat on offense. That's from Redskins.com, right? Lorenzo Alexander cuts weight, moves to inside backer.
Loved.
You remember Zoe? Loved Zoe.
Loved Lorenzo.
And then you got Richard Crawford as well playing at cornerback. Crawford says Santana Moss has coached him up with helpful pointers about tweaks he could make to his game.
And they started 3-6. That team that everyone was crowing about there. They started 3-6, and Shanahan said, "All right, that's it. We're just going to start evaluating guys for next year." And then I was like, "Well, okay, I guess I'm going to play my ass off, and we're going to win some games."
Yeah,
and they went 7 in a row.
When they did, a lot of excitement.
God, that was a fun year.
This year, what are the headlines we're going to hear at the end of next week?
So the headlines we're going to hear, or like what is really happening, right? Because that's
the headlines. The headlines you think we're going to hear. So not just the ones you want to hear. I want to hear from you the ones that we're going to hear, good or bad.
They're probably going to be the same ones that we heard in OTAs. The Carson Wentz's arm is different, right? He's got some zip on the ball and he can make all the throws, and it's going to be a different offense. Jahan Dotson has great hands. Terry McLaurin looks great as usual. Chase and Logan Thomas are not going to be out there. And then you're going to hear about Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne dominating on the defensive line. And then you're going to hear, this is the headline you're going to hear. I'm sorry. Don't at me in the comments. Jamin Davis just ain't getting it. Those are the headlines. Those are pretty good headlines, right?
I don't know if they're written that well, but
they weren't written well. I'm just saying
for the most part, those are the headlines I think people want to hear, right? They want to hear that Carson Wentz looks the part. They want to hear about, the interior linemen dominating. They want to hear about the wide receivers performing well. No one wants to hear that news about Jamin Davis. You're pretty dead set that that's going to be the case for our second-year linebacker, just a first-round pick last year. You really don't think he's got it?
No, I don't. I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but when you're in these OTAs and you're in these practices and training camp, when you pop, and he has never popped, and he's supposed to. Right? Cam Curl popped from the beginning. Chase Young pops. Those guys, there are certain guys that just pop. And that doesn't mean they're going to be stars, but it means they're definitely not going to be busts. And Jamin Davis has never popped since he put on the Redskins or Washington football team / Commanders uniform. Not once has he ever. Maybe one game he made 1 or 2 tackles, and that's all he's done. Even in OTAs this year, didn't pop. Nobody talked about him. Sorry. That's just, unfortunately, he's going to go down as one of those guys where, hey, we kind of blew it. It's going to be a Josh Doxson kind of guy. Doxson, by the way, did pop in camp, and he did pop in preseason, but didn't turn out. He's going to be that guy. He's going to be a pro for a few years, and he's going to be serviceable, but he's not going to be worth that pick that they made at 19th.
The 19th overall pick. My question for you, Stoner, is so I got a couple different groups here. One of them is going to be Roger Smith. Shout out to you in the chat there.
Yeah.
He says the tight end room is dynamic. Rodgers, Hodges, and Turner, some of the young guys that are coming in. We just talked this with Rico. What's the headline for the tight end group?
Okay. You want my headline, or do you want what's going to actually be
Let's hear the headline. What do you think the headline's going to be?
The headline is going to be the tight ends are performing up to standard. That's the headline's going to be.
That's not a headline then.
Well, okay, that's what I'm saying. How else do you want to put it? They're not bad. They're not.
Is there any excitement that you're going to have for these guys? Because that's what I expect to come out of this, right? I think that you're going to hear Cole Turner is impressing at camp. Nope. You think that he's overhyped.
Yeah.
How about, maybe Bates is solidifying himself as tight end 2?
He's fine. He's an average tight end. That's all he is, which is
how
fine.
About Rodgers or Hodges, any of those guys? Maybe how about Gandy Golden? Gandy Golden is impressing as tight end. That's one of those headlines we've been hearing OTAs. Is that not going to continue now? Is that going to, or you're going to see that he's going to fall off?
I like big wide receivers turn tight ends. I think they perform better because they have the receiver's mentality and they just got to learn to block. So I like his chances better than those other guys, the Rodgers and the Hodges and the Reyeses, right? I think he'll finish ahead of all of those guys. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll make the 53, but probably will, because Logan's going to be out for at least a month, I think, of the actual games. He's going to miss at least 4 games. But I like Gandy Golden. I think he's got an opportunity here. They brought him back. They switched positions. They did it for a reason, because they see something in him. They see some potential in him doing that. So these other guys, I don't know. I think Cole Turner's a little overhyped. He was a 5th-round pick. Is that right?
5th rounder.
He's a 5th-round pick for a reason, right? Usually great players don't get picked in the 5th round.
Antonio Brown was a 5th-round pick. Just going to say that. Antonio Brown?
Right. Of course. So again,
you
want me to give you 100 5th-rounders?
There's plenty even on this team that haven't panned out. So that's a fair point indeed. I'm just saying you could potentially get a star. It's not impossible, right?
Absolutely.
Next position group that I want to go to, right? So we heard it in the 2012 ones. You had Josh Laribas and Trent Williams, both as kind of one of those were the first couple of headlines that I read off. Which O-lineman are we going to hear from this training camp?
Okay, I'll just tell you who I hope we hear from. I hope we hear about Cosme continuing to develop. He did pop last training camp. A lot of guys were very impressed with his abilities last camp. So I hope that continues for him to be able to ascend to that next level, which is important because you've got 2 new guys on the line. So he's my guy. I like Sam Cosme and hope he's the one. Who's your guy on the offensive line?
Cosme's the clear choice here. I think, however, if I'm going to see a headline that's not Cosme related, it's got to be these interior guys.
Sure.
You got to hear good things from them. Yep. You got to hear, or just generically, the line is communicating well. Like, those are the headlines I want to hear.
Yeah.
The headline I think I'm going to hear is the O-line is struggling to communicate.
That's not good for Carson Wentz.
That's not good
because Carson Wentz is a downfield thrower, right? So what does that mean? He needs a little bit more time. Needs that extra half a second or second to be able to find the guy who's open and go to him. Not good if the offensive line struggles. Just ask Indianapolis last year, fans. Their pass protection was not good, and that's where he struggled the most.
So hopefully I am wrong on that one. I do think, unfortunately, we are going to hear not great news on Davis. So I will agree with you that I don't think I'm not as dire about him as you are. Yeah. I just don't expect to hear him. I don't think we're going to see the headline that second year, linebacker is getting it right. They're not going to sit there. They're not going to praise him.
Yeah.
It's going to be,
You're not going to.
Maybe we'll see it in the game, but probably not realistic.
Ryan Anderson 2.0. You thought he was going to be a stud. I mean, Ryan Anderson was a second rounder.
Third rounder, I think.
Was he? Yeah, but he was.
I think you're actually right. I think he was second round. You're right. He was second.
He was not that far behind where Jamin Davis was picked. And he couldn't even break the starting lineup in the years he was here. And I don't even know if he's in the league. And if he is, he's barely hanging on. So, yeah, I think that's who Jamin Davis is going to be compared to. Ryan Anderson, Josh Doxson, higher picks that you had a lot of hope for and then turned out to be nothing. Who's that? And then there was that other I was just thinking of another linebacker / defensive line. Anyway, it slipped my mind. But, we've had a few of them around here that have kind of busted out.
He was picked 30 picks behind where Jamin Davis was. He was picked, so he's picked 49th overall in the second round. He's currently a free agent, according to this.
Woof.
So,
man,
yeah.
Some of those just absolutely blow my mind of how dominant you can be in college at a big time school. It's not like he was dominant at some small school and was killing guys. He was at Alabama, okay, and he was pummeling people at Alabama. And so you just figure that would easily translate over into the NFL. And he was just one of those guys that just never clicked for him. And unfortunately, might be Jamin Davis too. Step slow
there. The wide receivers, you really think it's going to be Terry McLaurin and Dotson, or do you think we're going to hear more on Curtis Samuel?
Gosh, I hope we're going to hear more on Curtis Samuel. I loved that free agent pickup last year before they did it. After they did, after the season, I hated it, obviously. But I hope that you hear more about Curtis Samuel than you do Jahan Dotson. I really hope, because if that's the case, and Jahan Dotson is your number 3 receiver in terms of production, you got something going, right? Because McLaurin is going to do his work. And I've said this all along with McLaurin. I think his yards and catches are going to be down a little bit, but they're going to be more effective. What's the right word?
Impactful.
Impactful. Thank you. They're going to be more impactful plays because he's not going to have to do all these jump balls and all this other stuff. So I hope it's Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson is your number 3 guy. You got something going on there. So yeah, Curtis Samuel's my guy that I hope we hear more from.
That Samuel would be nice to hear some positive things. If there's one day in training camp he sits on a scale from 0 to molten lava here, how hot is his position and how hot are fans in regards to him not seeing some training camp time?
And who was that? I missed who you said.
With Curtis Samuel.
Oh, with Curtis Samuel. Yeah. I mean, look. OTAs, they had 6 practices in OTAs, and he only practiced in 3 of them. In what's really a light practice, there's no hitting, there's no pads or anything like that, and he could only participate in 3 because they were being careful. Give me a break with that being careful with the guys. This is football. I understand if you're hitting and you're doing pads and all that, but he's a year out from hernia surgery. Okay, this is not an Achilles. This is not an ACL. He didn't have back surgery. He had hernia surgery. And sure, it was probably aggravated, but he hasn't played football since when? January?
They officially shut him down, I think, in December, right?
Yeah, in 7 months, he hasn't played football, and you got to be careful with a hernia surgery?
You don't want to re-aggravate it, right? That's the
okay,
thing.
But everybody's got injuries. If that's the case, if you're worried about injuries, nobody would be practicing. right? And he sat out half of OTAs with no pads and no hitting. That is molten lava sort of alarm for me. I just hope that's not what happens.
I think that is fair. Let us know in the comment section what headlines you think we're going to hear by the end of next week. I think Stoner's probably pretty spot on with several of these. Stoner here.
No,
we got
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus. Stone-damus is what it was. Do you feel? Okay, here's a better question for you.
Okay.
What is the position group that is going to be most solidified outside of QB?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that one's pretty solidified already. After training camp, which position group is going to be pretty well? Just who we're going to get 1 through whatever how many they keep on the roster. Which group is that?
I think
I
think it's pretty clear cut that the running back room is probably the most is the deepest and is probably the most impactful group that this team has, because you have basically 3 guys who could be every down backs. I know JD McKissic is not a big back, but he even showed at times last year where he would, when Gibson got benched, who was making all the plays, the runs up the middle. McKissic.
It's not a guy you're going to give 200 plus
no, of course
running touches to. You can get him 200 touches if you include the passing game. But
But there's 3 guys with Gibson, McKissic, and Robinson. You got 3 guys who can absolutely impact the game anytime any one of them is in there. And that's a pretty solid, because at the most you're going to have 2 of them in the game at the same time. But what it allows them to do is move guys around so much in order to create that mismatch. That's what you always hear in offensive football. Create that mismatch. And they can do that with Gibson and McKissic at the same time. Robinson and Gibson at the same time. Things like that. So I like that group. And when your 4th guy is Jonathan Williams, who is he's kind of a jag, but he's a player, right? And JFP, Jarrett freaking Patterson.
I was about to say EP is not feeling well, folks. So she's not jumping in the chat here. But I guarantee you, if she hears any bad mouthing from Stoner, she will get up and you'll start to see the emojis flying.
He's not making the squad. Sorry, he's just not. And then that last guy, what was his name?
I don't want to sleep on the couch, Stoner. Why do we got to do this? Yeah, the other guy, the one that Yam was talking about, where he said, "Who is this guy?"
Bonifol.
Yeah, he's not making the team. Probably not even the practice squad there. I agree. Running back seems like the safest choice here, right? Because you got Gibson, who's a clear number 1. You expect Robinson to fill in, and JD has been a key part of this offense in his entire time that he's been here. So that feels pretty safe. I think Jarrett freaking Patterson probably is practice squad, bound.
Yeah.
I don't think that they keep more than 3, but I do feel like they can probably keep Williams and Patterson both on the practice squad. We'll see, though, how that pans out. On the flip side, which is the position group with the most questions leaving training camp? You're going to go with linebacker.
It's such a no-brainer. When you've got a guy who last year wasn't even on the squad, who is now your number 1 backup in David Mayonnaise or David Miracle Whip, sorry, right? You got him in there, and he's your 3rd linebacker. You're only going
need a miracle.
Yeah.
So whip this one into shape, yeah.
You're going too deep as starters if you're going with this whole Buffalo nickel situation, which it seems like they are. But still, you've got a guy who doesn't get it, which is Jamin Davis. And you've got Cole Holcomb, who is a serviceable linebacker, who's probably going to get an extension here before training camp starts or during training camp, which is fine. You need Cole Holcombs on your team, but he's not lighting the world on fire. That's a problem. And when you've got guys you never heard of, or they don't even have pictures of them in the media guide, who are fighting for spots on the team, that's a problem.
Where do you see Khaleke Hudson playing a role with this team?
Probably with a clipboard and taking notes about each play as they happen, because he's not going to be on this squad either. At best, he's going to be a practice squad guy. And as a third-year guy, I believe he is. I think he's a third-year guy, maybe a fourth. He's a third-year guy. After a while, you just cut bait with those guys because you're not going to sign him to a new contract.
Fair enough.
He's the picture of Jag. That's what he is, unfortunately.
Yam says, weird random thought, but I wonder if either of these cats they picked up from the USFL are going to try and flex into backup linebacker roles. Both he believes are corners. Is that the case? Do you think that that's something? You talked about this Buffalo nickel. Maybe one of the safeties comes down. You have Forrest who maybe can play a little bit there. Where do you see some of these pickups, and why is it that this linebacker position is just so god awful?
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna work out. I mean, they obviously saw something in them to bring them into camp, but again, the odds are heavily against a guy from the USFL is going to come into the NFL and make an impact. There's a reason he was playing in the USFL, because he wasn't good enough to play in the NFL. Maybe he just didn't get a chance. Whatever. Those stories are so few and far between. We got to stop looking at it as the answer to our problems at linebacker or Buffalo nickel or whatever it is. You have to bring in guys who have done it before and know what they're doing. And I keep hearing the name Anthony Barr. Maybe he's a guy they bring in to fill in one of those positions. Who knows? Most of those guys they bring in from the USFL, they're just going to be camp bodies, or they're going to be depth guys. The last guy you want to see on the field during a game. You don't want those guys out there, because that means your best players are not on the field at the time.
Sportshead, thanks for jumping in here on the chat. How does he not get it if he's only a rookie? You sound foolish. That's a little bit harsh, I think, on the end there, Sportshead. Cool. But I think to defend Stoner here, there's been a lot of questions when it comes to Davis, right? And there are certain players, especially those taken in the first round, that you can see who just get it. Stoner, you mentioned a couple of our players who weren't even taken in the first round who just got it, right? Cam Curl just immediately came out and flashed. Yep. Chase Young, a first rounder, did come out and flash. And you can see that talent. Jamin Davis at 19, there have been flashes. I have seen those flashes where he pops and he does something. They just happen so few seldom, that you have to wonder what's going on. Now, my particular hope is I think that the coaching staff was really trying to shoehorn him into being a middle linebacker.
Right.
They like his size. They like his movement. The guy has great sideline to sideline speed. Now, the problem is middle linebacker is a very, very heavy processing kind of position. And that's where I feel like Davis really didn't get it, right? Davis needed to be, especially as a rookie, an instinctual player. And they're playing him out of position, and he was having to do too much. And that's the part where I think he struggled. So I'm hoping we hear some good news from him. You move him to, one of the outside spots, and you let him just play football, and hopefully we'll get something going here. Joe Sanders, thanks for coming in here. How you doing? Appreciate you jumping in. We are wrapping up our talk here on training camp. When we come back, it will be a grab bag full of sports topics.
Yeah, man.
Are we going to grab them from from the bucket hat there? I feel like we need to grab them from the bucket hat.
Well, all right. So I'll grab them from the bucket hat.
We're going to do that when we come back from the cool down. From lotteries to headlines, we've got ourselves some great discussion there that happened on training camp, but now it's time for the grab bag.
All right. So I'm going to need you to fill a little bit while I
Okay, he's got it. He's got to get it.
My stuff. Sorry.
Joe here is excited. The football is coming back, baby. Can't wait to see the game on September. It's going to be great. We do here on Ref the District. We will be streaming our own commentary and play-by-play, so you can watch the game with us. You don't have to listen to those D teams that the broadcasters usually give us. You can go ahead and listen to us, the A team here on Ref the District. Training camp is going to be exciting. It does start next week. We listed off some of the headlines and we're pretty happy. You know, we're pretty hopeful, I'll say right now. Sportshead agrees with my end statement there. He was obviously out of position.
Yeah.
Coaching needs to do a better job. It's that simple. I agree. If there's going to be a surprise headline by the end of this season, it's going to be that Jack Del Rio is no longer employed by the Washington Commanders.
That's not a hot take. I think that's kind of like a medium take because I think it's probably
if there's going to be a headline that I think that's going to come out, like if the season doesn't go well, Jack Del Rio is probably the first one to roll it.
Yep. All right, you ready?
Let's
Number one, Nathan, what do you think about you probably have to do the overlay or whatever. You'll have to get rid of that when I pop this in here. Just a little behind the scenes stuff. What do you think about this Nathan Perry? KD to DC.
It's just not happening, right?
Sam Amico says, watch out for the Wizards in terms of where KD is going to end up this season.
It's not happening. It'd be exciting, especially KD is a local guy. You kind of want to see it, but it's just not happening. So don't get your hopes and dreams up. And even if they did trade, what's the team left at that point? Yeah. Like they're going to need to sign you and me, Stoner, to be able to field the team because you'll have to give up that much for KD. Also, I don't think KD and Beal is a good match. I just don't see that one winning you as many games as what it would do to give it up.
Yeah, I think that's a bunch of trash. This report, there's no way that's going to happen. Now, he's not a free agent. Look, if the Nets wanted to do him dirty, he's under contract, and they can trade him to the Wizards if they want to. And he has absolutely no say over that. They're not going to do him like that. But, so I put out there that or we put out there on our Twitter that there's two rules for following this KD to DC sort of deal. Rule number one, if you see a report that KD is considering going to the Wizards, that report is trash. Rule number two, if you think that report is not trash, see rule number one. It's trash.
It's trash. It's not going to happen. They're just trying to stir some stuff up. It's just Washington's not a legitimate trade partner. I agree with Sportshead here. Don't waste time. You'd give up the squad, and then next year he's asking for a trade. It's just, you're going to win, 42 maybe if you're lucky. You're going to be a play-in team.
All right, so sticking on that same that same general area, Nathan, what do you think of this? The Wizards closed out the summer league at 3-2, beating the Warriors. Jaime Echenique, I believe is how you say it, was a standout in summer league for the second straight year. Quentin Jackson finished strong with 18 points, a lot of potential. And Pat Spencer had a solid game. And if you don't know Pat Spencer's story, go Google Pat Spencer. I believe he played lacrosse in college for 4 years. He had another year of eligibility, and he decided to play basketball for 1 year. And now he's in the summer league, NBA summer league, which is unbelievable, the sort of athleticism.
Good stories don't win basketball games.
Yeah,
Isn't that
but what do you think of the
say,
Wizards?
Shout out to Chase Hughes here from NBC Sports for the Washington Wizards, friend of the channel. It's summer league. Am I supposed to be excited? It's like preseason. The scores don't actually matter.
Nope.
And if anything, the biggest news that came out for Wizards in the summer league was Johnny Davis struggled, right?
Yeah, not impressive.
So, he's not going to be your starter. They have they have Beal in the shooting guard position. They're not forcing Johnny Davis into being the ball handler, so he's going to be coming off the bench. You still want him to be more explosive than what he was showing in the summer league. Now, we talked about this prior. Summer league, there's no winning, right? If you ball out, it's the summer league. You're supposed to do that. If you don't ball out, then you
can't beat summer league guys.
Yeah, can't beat summer league guys. So there's no winning, and I just feel like we really need the season to start to kind of get into the flow of things. And
that's probably why Johnny Davis was sat down, rested with a lower back issue for the last 2 games, because he was struggling, and they didn't want it to be a whole referendum on the pick, the number 10 pick, that he is a big bust. So they just kind of shut him down, and hopefully they'll get him into camp and whip him into shape, which
a lot of it seemed hesitation, right? If you're watching the games, it seemed like
right?
his first step wasn't quick enough to get around the guy, and he didn't move. He didn't do another move. He just kind of was trying to get bailed out, and then failed to really kind of get in rhythm. I do hope that camp can fix that and kind of bring back that confidence, let him go to a second move, or let him realize his first step. He can get past people in the first step, but we've talked about this a lot when it comes to the NBA draft. Realistically, the top 4 guys are the ones that are going to be impactful. Everybody else is a role player. Do you think Johnny Davis will be a role player for the Washington Wizards this season?
Yeah, I think so. This season, he will play a role. It will not be an impactful role, but he'll play a role. He'll be in with that second unit with the Denny's and Kisperts and Will Barton and guys like that. That's who he's going to be playing with.
Maybe Pat Spencer.
Hey, maybe Pat Spencer. That's absolutely right. He might get a 2-way contract. We'll see. He played pretty well in summer league. All right, you ready for the next one? I only got a couple, so right here. And what do you think about this?
Adam Schefter, 49ers officially have given Jimmy G agents Donye and Carter Chow permission to seek a trade, sources said. Garoppolo has been cleared to start practicing. Per team source, 49ers are still expected to exercise caution with him this summer.
Yeah.
Isn't it too late? Hasn't the market like this? We saw this with the Baker deal, right?
Yeah.
The Cleveland got less for Baker than they should have because of the situation they put themselves in.
Yeah.
Now, and how late it is, how close it is to the season.
Sure.
You're not going to get Jimmy G should have been able to pull back at least a second rounder, at least Carson Wentz, right? You should have been able to get the 2/3, maybe a second and a third, given some circumstances. Jimmy G should have been able to pull that. Now you're going to be lucky to get much of anything for him because teams are already pretty set.
Yeah.
I also don't expect a deal to happen with this at all, first off. But second, if a deal does happen, to hedge my bets here a little bit, it's going to come after training camp when teams realize their quarterback situation isn't as good as they thought it might be, and they're quarterback away, because that's what I think Jimmy G is going to give you. Maybe not overall talent-wise, but game manager-wise. If you have a solid defense, a good running game, and some decent wide receivers, I think Jimmy G can bring you to the playoffs.
All right, very good. I agree with all of that. Absolutely. I got one more.
Sure, I'm getting you actual takes this time.
Yeah,
the guys like to tease me and my broadcast role because I tend to walk the line and let you decide what's going on here.
That's right. All right, you ready for this one?
Ready for this one.
All right, here we go. It's coming up. How about this
clown? This clown. For our audio listeners, this is the video of the old man trying to get a baseball signed, and he's hovering over kids. He knocked and scolded this little kid after they knocked hands and stuff. This is like the absolute worst, right? This is just horrible all the way around. I'm sure this guy will come up with a story saying he's trying to get this for like his sick kid or something like this. No, he's not. This guy's hawking these signed baseballs.
Yeah.
They do this everywhere. I actually have a personal story to share. Right.
All right.
So in 2015, would have been 2015. Maybe it was 2014. Either way, I happened to be down in Tampa for a job, and I happened to be staying at the same hotel that the Washington Redskins were at. Did not know this, did not plan this. Okay. I just, I was dumbfounded. I was actually going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy with the people who I was down there with. And as we're heading out, I just noticed that there's a whole bunch of people kind of loitering around the lobby, and some of them are wearing Redskins gear. There's a lot of burgundy and gold. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? It just so happened to be the weekend or the week that Washington was playing Tampa in the preseason. And they were coming to that hotel. And so I was just like, guys, we gotta catch a later show because I'm not going to miss the team coming in. And the team files in. I had nothing to sign. I'm literally at like our ID cards, military ID cards. They give you these like sleeves for them. I pull out my sleeve to that to just try to get to RG3 actually to sign it. But I'm being beat out by all these other people who are way more aggressive about signatures, to include this guy who clearly was just there to hawk. He had a whole cabinet's worth of stuff to sign. Really? And all it was just to be able to get that stuff to be sold. I get it. People needs to do it. I agree. Sportshead dude needs to just stay home. It's so embarrassing.
I mean, look, if you want to get the autograph, that's one thing, but to be like pushing kids around to get it, that's a different level.
Yeah. Yam says, I have seen this exact story for decades now. We just need to see it more, or we see it more in the cell phone camera age. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has a phone. So your people are going to record this kind of stuff that's happening. To me, I'm really not all that big on signatures anyways. I know certain people are. I mean, I am very proud of this one behind me, John Allen signed jersey. Yeah. But really, to me, it's more about the experience. To me, I have a cool story that I got to see, just happened to be in the same hotel as the Redskins, got to see the players, and something that will always amaze me because I forget how large of a human being I am is just, I could have just walked in line with them. I don't think anybody would have questioned it. They're like, oh yeah, that must be that new linebacker or tight end that they picked up, who's just a camp body, like legit, like, I forget, especially back then. It was many, many years ago when I was a little bit more built. But yeah, it is something. Be good, people. Okay, if you're in the home run derby and you catch a ball, give it to a kid. They're gonna remember that, and they're gonna be fans for life. Not that you aren't, but you're already solidified. Help them out with that.
He's a loser. Let's call it what it is. That guy is a loser with a capital L right there. I've called it.
Steve, without the cert of authenticity, they don't sell for much.
What is it?
I'm not even going to try it again.
Called again?
He's got a Kyle Allen jersey, a Bryce Love pylon stamped authentic. I'm pretty sure they don't raise much money for you, Steve, because of those names that you have. Yeah, he's laughing even at himself there.
Kyle Allen, yeah.
We're going to run down this show, folks. It's a wind down this show. It's been a fun episode. We appreciate all those in the chat. Of course, we stream live every Wednesday on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 7:30. Be a fan of us right now, right? Go ahead and like the channel, subscribe to the channel. Please. Make sure you get out there. If you like the bucket hat that's coming on, stay tuned. We're going to push out where those come from. Again, I think maybe the bucket hat, we make like $2 on it. It's not about the money for us. It's just because we think it's really cool. Take a picture, share it on social media. Make sure you tag us. We appreciate the support as always. Steve, thanks for the money donation earlier. And until next time.
What's that, Nathan?
Be a fan.
We love Washington, and we some die-hard fans. Yeah, we are. You know we keep it on 10. Let's talk about the offense. 1, 2, 3, let's go. And they gifted. We are Ref the District. Podcast. Come on now and join us. You join it.